back, everyone. Jason and Michelle here, Ekko Nesters. We got Bad Betty with us, and she is on the beautiful Oregon coast here. We couldn't ask for a better day, and we thought we'd take a moment to talk about some of the gear that we carry. This is pretty basic recovery gear that I think anyone who may have an all-wheel drive Ford Transit chassis, or even a Sprinter or some other vehicle that you might be using for purposes of getting a little bit off-road, maybe nothing too crazy, you're out and about, you're just having some fun, it's always a good idea to have some recovery gear with you. Let's talk about what we have here. We've got a CA tuned recovery package right here. I like to call this my off-road package or my recovery system. We got a 12,000 pound Warren winch here. It uses a Bluetooth remote. We've got the Mad Max D shackles. What you see hanging here, we don't travel with it on here. This just actually was something that I had stuck on here a few moments ago, and we're going to talk more about what that is. And then of course we've got our winch rope. It's a synthetic rope. These actually have what I consider somewhat of a built-in skid plate. These are very strong, reinforced. We got a little video coming at you later where we put this to use. But for now, let's say that you have your Ford all-wheel drive chassis, and let's just assume for the time that maybe you don't have the Van Compass or something equivalent 2-inch lift. Maybe you're still running your stock 205 tires and you haven't upgraded to the 225s or 245s. So you've got a basic van chassis here. You've got the Winnebago Ekko built on top of it. And you want to get out and play around a little bit, and you want to make sure that either you can help yourself or possibly help someone else. So let's talk some basic gear here. The first thing obviously you see is always keep a first aid kit on hand. I mean, if you're really going to go do some crazy stuff, maybe you need a trauma kit, but most people don't. Depending on what part of the country or world that you live in, it's not a bad idea also to keep a snake bite kit on hand. We don't really get into too many rattlesnake areas, but we do go into some areas where, quote unquote, they are. We're gonna get to this stuff here. The other nice thing that you could carry is what's called a kinetic rope. A kinetic rope is, and I'll demonstrate a little bit here in a little while, but it's something that you would be attaching to the recovery vehicle as well as the vehicle that's stuck. Now, the reason that I like kinetic ropes, no particular brand. This happens to be a 1-inch by 30-foot kinetic rope. You can see everything's reinforced. It's a good rope. It's a synthetic material, but the reason I like it is that just as yesterday we were recovering a vehicle and we didn't have a typical strap, so I connected the kinetic rope. In this case, I actually created some tension. I just pulled them out. We didn't actually use too much of the kinetic energy, which we're going to come back and talk about that in a little bit. And then you've got some soft shackles here. This here would be basically what some might call a D shackle. This is a steel shackle. This is has its purpose. And then we have our soft shackles, and we'll talk more about those. I think carrying a minimum of 2 is important. Also, it's nice to have a flashlight or some sort of means for light. This just happens to be a pretty basic light. It's pretty bright, as you can see. The other thing to have, and we're going to talk about the importance of communication. Now, we all have cell phones, and we rely on those, but sometimes you're out and about and you don't have a signal, and maybe whether you're using some of the onboard Wi-Fi, your Starlinks, whatever, but you don't have a means to communicate. A basic set of walkie-talkies is going to help the driver as well as the person operating the winch, as well as the vehicle, let's say, that is stuck or in need, communicate. We're going to talk more about some of the basic communications that we'll address on that. Now, another thing you could keep and should keep on board, because once you know how to use one of these, they're super simple. Just a flat, or I should say a tire repair kit. I'll go over some of the details of what you see in here. We've got a deflator, inflator. We've got some of our plugs. We've got the tools here that we're going to repuncture where our penetration is and make the repair, and some lubricant, etc. But this can get you out of a jam and get your tire fixed till you can either get to a shop and or get the tire replaced, depending what your needs are. I'm going to skip over this bag for a moment. I'm sure some of you are wondering, why does he have water here? He's got this Winnebago Ekko. It holds 50 gallons of fresh water. Well, again, we're talking about having some simple stuff on hand. You might be out and about. You might have got down to your last bit of water. You might be stuck for a little while, having a little bit of protein, some jerky, some peanuts, or things that maybe can give you protein that aren't necessarily allergens to some of you. And then hydration. We can go without food for a while, but we can't go without water. Now, what you see here is a basic shovel. I did not break out the collapsible full-on recovery shovel because most of us probably have one of these at home. Simple, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can keep it in your garage. We'll talk about the many uses of that. Then we're gonna come over here to what we call a winch dampener blanket. You don't need a particular brand. This is just something we picked up. And kind of talking about some of the gear I picked up. It's good quality gear. It's the baseline of what you can do to get yourself or somebody else out of trouble without spending a ton of money. Because some of this gear can run into the thousands of dollars. So this right here is a winch dampener. What I kind of dig about it here, I'll kind of show you just a second. It's got Velcro, but that's not what I dig, is it's got a built-in carry bag. And this is where I tend to keep my gloves. I got various pairs. And then in here is my tire deflation kit. It's a 2-in-1. It'll give me where we're at as we deflate and also where we're at on when we, let's say, air back up. And also carry another gauge. This is another very basic tool. We're out in the sand. We need to air down. We got to get some traction. This is going to make things a lot quicker. There's lots of versions of these. Some of them are a little bit more advanced. Again, this is a basic tool that can get you out of trouble and get you on your way without spending a ton of money. So this right here was kind of cool, believe it or not. It doubles as a safety vest. Let's say you're out and about somewhere and it's kind of getting dark, lights changing, and maybe you don't have the winch, but you're gonna still need this, and you just need to let people know, hey, I'm here, because this is a reflective material. But its key job is to dampen the rope and or recovery, whether it's the kinetic rope, a strap, or the winch rope. And I'm gonna explain more about this and demonstrate it and what it does later, but these are key. Now, really quick, if you don't have one of these and you're out and about and you see somebody that is anchored on, let's say, to a typical steel D-strap, or using a forged steel hook, and they're attached to another vehicle, and you see that line is taut, offer them this or offer them a blanket and make a suggestion. And the reason is, and I'm going to kind of migrate into this, let's say that we had a failure point between one of these steel items, and we've got a lot of tension between us and the other vehicle that we're recovering, and something goes wrong and let's go. Let's just say your rope's bad, it's old, a tie went wrong, and that thing comes back. It's going to be coming back like a projectile. When that comes back, it's either going to crash into the vehicle, the windshield, or it's going to come into an area that we call the kill zone. And we're going to talk more about where to stay out of the areas during the recovery. And again, a lot of this is going to tie back into communication. And we're going to get back to talking about our soft shackles here. So we're kind of talking about what this does. As you lay it over the rope, and we'll demonstrate this, and you've got that tension, if something goes wrong, this 3-pound dampener is going to drop that rope and disengage the keep the projectile from coming at you and or your vehicle, especially a person. We can replace these are inanimate objects. Now, let's get over here to our recovery track boards. Lots of names for these, lots of brands out there. These are rated at 10 tons. They're just under $100. You can go with max tracks. The sky's the limit with what you want to do and what you want to spend. But these are about 15 pounds total for the pair. And these are excellent to carry around, whether you're in sand, mud, loose dirt, snow. These are another recovery piece that are ideal. They can double as a shovel. As you can see, we can move a lot of earth pretty rapidly. And then there are traction boards. Now, if you're just getting out there, getting busy and going crazy, and your whole life's around recovery and four-wheel drive stuff, I can imagine that you have all your opinions on what you're going to carry, the brands, how much flexibility is in these, etc. But again, we're Ekko owners. We got these things so we can explore. They've got a lot of cool stuff inside going on for them. They're the 4-wheel drive chassis. It's a proven chassis. We typically just need to have some items on hand that make us or allow us to be confident. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the gear here and sort of put it within application. While we're here at the beach, we were kind of hoping, for all the right reasons, is that somebody out here would be stuck. As you can see, we've got some folks out here in the background just enjoying their day. And then we could have put some of Bad Betty's equipment to the test, especially our winch. But again, for those that don't want to make this upgrade and go to this extreme, this stuff here that I've shown you is gonna be key. So I'm gonna grab a drink of water real quick. We're gonna get back to business, stick with me. Right. So we've got our Kinetic rope. This could also be what I would call a static strap, something that's your basic recovery strap. But again, for demonstration and why I like the Kinetic ropes and our soft shackles, we're gonna show the basics of hooking this up. So this here is a steel D shackle. It's locked in, it's tight. This recovery system that you see here, it's all the way through, it's welded, bolted to the frame. This is a strong point. You may not have one of these, which means that you're gonna have to get underneath the vehicle and look to anchor onto either one of the A-arms or what I would call the cross member, but you need to anchor onto a good solid point. So we'll get into that stuff a little bit later in another video. So what would I need to do here? This kind of keeps things protected on this rope. It's just like a little cushiony area. So what I would do is I would be taking my strap, just weave it right through there. We've got it kind of hanging. I'd come back through my D shackle, and as I bring that up, what's gonna happen is I wanna keep this part of my rope, I'm gonna call it the protective sleeve, and this engaged. Now, as you can see, once that is locked in there, and I've given it a good tug, and I pull that up and cinch it down, it's not coming apart. I'm using some pretty good force there. So let's say now we have this part anchored in and taken care of. And because we don't have another vehicle here today to demonstrate, we're gonna have to, I should have uncoiled this from yesterday. A little bit neater, but hey, that's life, right? There we go. We got 30 foot of rope here. There we go. So we would extend our rope out to the recovery vehicle. And once we're at that recovery vehicle, we're gonna need to go ahead and make the same connection. Not necessarily to a D shackle, but to a point of the cross member, the A arm. Depending what the vehicle is, they might actually have, you can find them in the trunk, they're little recovery hooks that kind of thread in. I don't trust those, but sometimes that's all we have to work with. And again, that's really where this dampener is going to come into effect here. So let's assume that we've done the same tie-in at the vehicle that we're recovering, okay? So we checked our connection, we cinched everything up, we feel really good about our connection. Now, on a Kinetic rope, you're gonna leave the slack. A lot of you guys will see that when people are using an actual tow strap, somebody is just easing up a little bit or easing back a little bit to create tension so they can make a straight pull, a nice clean pull. Because that strap is not designed, not our Kinetic rope, but the tow straps are not designed to be yanked on. You want them straight, you want them to feel solid and taut, and then you begin your recovery. Now, why do I feel that having this Kinetic rope is better? Remember, we're leaving slack as the recovery vehicle is either backing away, pulling away, the other vehicle that's lodged in is stuck. As this vehicle begins to take off, not at a high rate of speed, obviously, because it's kind of take off, that rope is going to stretch. When that rope stretches and it starts to want to recoil, it's going to literally snatch the vehicle that's stuck or the one that we're trying to recover straight out of the hole. I've done it, I've seen it. We got some great video of where we lent this to some folks that were stuck out here just the other day. So, now, in theory, because we have soft shackles, some folks might arguably say, well, you don't really need one of these. I disagree. The reason is, we're still relying on this piece of steel, and if something goes wrong, this pin snaps, I highly doubt this one's going to. It's truly rated. This blanket here, when we lay it over, I'm gonna just set it here, and again, we're gonna kind of just assume that I'm the vehicle that's gonna be recovered, and and that's sitting there. If something was to let go, and I'll show you the swing over here for a sec, Shell, let go, rather than whatever's down here becoming a projectile or a missile, it's just gonna drop it, and as it comes through, this blanket's gonna house it. And again, if you don't have one of these, and you see somebody in a jam, grab a blanket, a moving blanket, grab some coats, whatever it takes to put that down. So again, this Kinetic rope can be used for multiple purposes. It's great, it's safe. These are rated at about 41,000 pounds of strength. This Kinetic rope has the equal value. It's a little bit, I'd say, overrated. This is 1 inch, you can get 3/4 inch. But again, maybe I'm just kind of an overkill guy. So let's swing back around here. Anytime, and again, we're just doing a walkthrough, that we would be doing this, we want to have gloves on. You never know, it's really unusual that something would be barred in here or something that's caught to cut your hands. But you never know what you'd run into, especially if you don't have a synthetic line. Let's say you have a steel cable and you're pulling the cable out. You'll want some gloves because sometimes there are little fractures of metal that are kind of wanting to separate, and that could cut your hand. So again, gloves for all purposes here. Now, in theory, we just got this vehicle out. We're done, right? So let's say we're all alone, and let's say Bad Betty's buried, which we can sink her down a little bit if we want to, but we're just gonna demonstrate. What would we need to do to get Bad Betty out with this equipment and we're alone? Well, these two guys right here are best friends. And if you happen to have a deflator, this is also going to be one of your best friends. But remember, even if you don't have one of these, and let's just say you've got your toolkit with you, what you might be able to do is find something like a flathead screwdriver or even a Phillips. And let's see what we've got in here. We're just going to pretend that we're limited on our gear. We're digging around, and there we go. We found a screwdriver. So we come on over to the valve stem, and we would go ahead and engage. I'm gonna let you just kind of hear a little air leave here. That right there, and that's gonna begin to air down the tire. Now, what we're really looking for is about 15 to 20 PSI on these tires when we air down, because basically we're taking this and we're spreading the load. I like to think of it, we're creating a big paddle. These right now are about 65, no, they're about 70, 72 PSI. So that's where, when you're trying to figure it out, the gauge or the deflator kit's gonna come in handy, because you're gonna be able to monitor your PSI on this gauge. But again, you're in a jam, you don't have this, you want those tires to go down, I could tell you right now, you don't have a screwdriver, you're just limited, you forgot it, you can either use a key, you can use the end of your glasses, whatever it takes, a little piece of wood, a toothpick, a stick, you name it. Now you got 6 tires here that you're gonna have to go through to do that, so it might take a minute, but at least you're gonna get out. So back to our recovery tracks and our shovel. So I demonstrated earlier that in the event that you didn't have a shovel and you just had these can be used as a shovel. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna intentionally bury Bad Betty's tire just a little bit here, get her in, just to kind of demonstrate as if we were trying to pull sand. And actually, we could have just dug her down. All right, y'all, so we left off where we had talked about some of our gear. We've talked about how we would tie our Kinetic rope and or strap, the benefits of the soft shackles, some of the things that you need to be careful or aware of if you're gonna tie into some steel D shackles, the winch dampening blanket, etc. So let's say we're out and about, we remembered a shovel minimum. We happen to have picked up these, they're under 100 bucks, any brand you like. Again, we're not extremists, so we're gonna probably use these once to 3-4 times a year max. So come around here and we say, oh my goodness, Bad Betty's stuck, her tires are spinning. And that's a little drama for the camera, obviously. Well, the first thing we wanna do is start digging Bad Betty out. And again, if you have what I call an avalanche shovel, it's got a wider blade on it. They're really good, they move a lot of sand. But again, I wanted to kind of show you some stuff that either you might have at home, you could pick up inexpensively, especially for what your needs will be. So remember, in theory, we've aired Bad Betty down. and now we're down about 15-20 psi, which typically would walk this out. But let's say that we're far away from any place because we forgot our compressor. We're kind of scared to air down. We don't want to drive on really low tires, especially a vehicle with 11 plus K thousand pounds. And we really just don't want to bring too much PSI out of here. That's where our recovery boards / tracks are going to come into play. So you're going to be moving a little bit of sand. And if you're not high centered, meaning that there's so much sand underneath here that is compressed against the vehicle, moving the suspension to where your tires can't grab any traction, then you're probably in a better place. So we're gonna dig out for a moment here, and I'm gonna have Shell come around here with the camera just to kind of show, and we'll put these boards actually into use here in a moment. So basically I've got some of the sand out for Bad Betty. I've cleared it from underneath where maybe our cross member is, etc. And so I'm gonna go ahead and grab one of the boards, and we're gonna talk about how we're gonna wedge it. So most of these have a embedded platform. This is a jack point. There's another piece that you can put on here, and let's say you had to jack Bad Betty up and we were on uneven ground. You can place your jack right on these and you can go. These are rated at 10 tons per manufacturer. So I know this is going to be my top because we got the concave base area, and I can just kind of tell by all these ridges this is my bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and wedge this under. I'm not comfortable that we're far enough under there to really make a difference. So what I might do is just use the recovery board and get her up underneath there. We want to create a ramp, because what's going to happen is our tread here is actually going to want to bite onto these nubbins. You want to kind of come out slowly. If you spin these wheels, sure, you're going to tear these up where I'm down. There's more expensive versions where they got replaceable nubs, but you really don't want to damage your tire. So I'm going to say that I feel pretty good about this side, and so you don't have to watch me dig. I'm going to take a break, get a glass of water, and get the other side taken care of. Same process. Be right back with you. So I feel like we've got a pretty good pitch there. I might take out just a little more. Again, you saw Bad Betty move there. She's going to walk right up on this track. So I got Bad Betty all locked in. I'm not worried about the gap that you see here. These are designed to flex. What I really want to do is I want this to ramp though, because we're going to shoot out of here. So Michelle's going to get in the rig and we'll be right back. So hey guys, Michelle is in the rig. I'm outside the rig. And remember I talked about walkie-talkies. In this case, we don't really have to use these. These would definitely be used when we're using winches and such, which we're going to talk about. We've set the track. What I'm going to have Michelle do is she's going to slowly go back. And as she goes back, she's going to grab that track. She's going to give it a little bit more of a boost on the gas when I say okay. Now listen, if you're on your own, you're not going to have somebody out here obviously to talk about this. You're just going to need to fill it. But you're going to see how the track works. So Shell, if you could put it in reverse, what we're going to do is we're going to walk onto that track and then we're just going to shoot backwards. So here we go, folks. Let's see if it works. Go ahead and shoot out. And there you go. As you see, those dropped into the sand how they're supposed to. I actually have little orange recovery ropes for these I forgot to put on, but who cares, right? So there we go. That was our pit, our ditch. Bad Betty's out, and these did their job. Very simple. Now, there's going to be times that you're going to have to use these on the front as well as the rear. But in this case, we had just lodged the front of the vehicle, but the same thing would apply. Hey, Shell, thanks a lot. That was perfect. Good job. Hey guys, so let's recap real quick what we talked about. We've got our Kinetic rope. This is, again, my go-to right here. We talked about how it uses the kinetic energy that's being transferred from the recovery vehicle to, let's call it the vehicle that's stuck or in a compromised position, if you will. Talked about why we want to use a winch dampener want to use that with the tow strap, and also if we were going to just be using a kinetic rope. I just kind of find them useful because you never know on somebody else's vehicle if something's going to let go. Again, this is rated at over 40K of strength. So again, this is cool. It doubles as a safety vest. It's got a built-in pocket where I keep my gloves and such. No particular brand you need to purchase, just something that we picked up. We talked about our deflator kit, tire gauge, how that's used. We obviously, it's kind of self-explanatory, but we're going to do a whole video on airing down. And then we talked about our soft shackles versus the steel hard, but we're going to call those the Mad Max D shackles. But the actual steel shackles, why we would want to use these, the benefits of having them. We talked about just having some light, flashlight, simple. Bag to keep your gear in, kinetic rope. We talked about carrying, again, any brand. Tire patch kit. That'll be beneficial in the event that you get a nail or something in your tire. You can go ahead and get that taken care of. Get back on the road. You may not need the snake bite kit, but you definitely need a first aid kit. Those vary in what you're going to carry inside them, but just having the basics is important. Safety goggles, different types of gloves, a basic shovel. Again, there's some really cool shovels that break down some other things that you can carry with you. But if you're just going out for the day and you've got some basic gear from your house, we talked about water. You never know. Hydration. You could be out of water in the rig. It could be a hot day. The one thing we didn't talk about, I love this bag, by the way. I'll leave a little link. We're not sponsored or anything. I found it on Amazon. And what's really cool is it rolls out. And basically, I keep some miscellaneous sheet metal screws for some random repairs. And then, sorry, I'm trying to zip that back up. And then in here, I've got some various wire nuts. This rig obviously has 110 power on it. And then if we go into here, I've got some silicone, a little extra wire. I keep a small knife, plumber's tape, screwdrivers, scissors, wire pliers, if you will, strippers, I should say, lineman's pliers. I'm in construction, you'd think I'd name all that correctly, right? I'm trying not to bore you guys too much. And I've got a multimeter tester, a few other electrical items, just in case something goes haywire here, I can at least diagnose it. And as we make our way down here, we've got some wrenches, a couple of open-end, etc. Just some basic items, including a screwdriver. Inside I also keep some Torx bits, some T30s, etc. I tend to keep my goggles, one extra pair of gloves in here. I'll just show you how easy that is to wrap up. You just come around here, set this, your two straps, cinch her up, and all those tools, if you will, are safely and neatly put away. And last but not least, we just kind of go like that. You got a nice carrying handle. And then, of course, we talked about communication, walkie-talkies. We all have cell phones, but in the event that we are using the winch system, actually, let's talk about that for a quick sec, Shell. So there's a couple of what I call universal means. We all know that this means stop, right here. This typically would mean that we want something moving, coming, moving. So in this case, if we were winching and I didn't have walkie-talkies or a way to communicate, I would make this movement to let the person that's operating the winch know that we're going to need to go ahead and be pulled. In the event that I see something's not right, universal stop right here. If I was using the walkie-talkies, and this is really important to think about, sometimes just like on your cell phone and walkie-talkies, there could be an interruption in the signal and you're giving a command to someone to say winch. If you say winch, and somebody might have thought you said no winch, or you meant no winch, but you meant winch, vice versa, you get the point, that can be lost, and somebody can make a mistake, and somebody can get hurt. So it'd be this, winch, winch. They would confirm winch, winch. We know that that communication has been clear. Stop, stop. Always give it 2 times. Stop, 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 stop. They're gonna relay back to you what they heard. Winch, winch. Winch, winch. Again, always double everything up. It's for everybody's safety. We talked about our recovery tracks, recovery boards, lots of names for these. These here were about 86 bucks on Amazon. They're gonna serve us well for our needs. If we're in the outback of Australia, I'd probably have something a little bit different. But outside of that and a tow strap, if you don't have all this set up, some basics are gonna get you out of trouble. Airing down, talked about that. Be a good idea to have a compressor. If you don't have one on board, I get it, but a lot of this stuff will get you or somebody else out. Hey, love to hear from you guys. Thanks for subscribing. We hope this video was informative to you. We've been out here all day. Nobody needs recovery, so we're probably gonna head out, but it's been a good time. Our cockapoo, she's been on duty too. Say hi to everybody, T.
Best girl
Take care,
ever.
y'all.